Hi there, and welcome to the Maya navigation tutorial. What I want to do is quickly run through some of the commonly used keyboard shortcuts and hotkeys that will help you to navigate around the software. So, with that being said, it's really important to remember that Maya is case sensitive, and hotkeys will not work the same way if Shift or Caps Lock is on. So, make sure that you aren't hitting Shift and that Caps Lock isn't on. Okay, with that being said, let's get going. We'll start with some viewport tools. One of the cool ones is the tumble or the orbit tools, because it always feels kind of neat to do this. And the way to do it is to press the Alt key. Now, quick note about this. You'll notice that on my keyboard it says Option. That's because I'm working on a Mac, but the Option key and the Alt key are the same. So, if I hold down the Alt key and I left mouse, click and drag, I can tumble around my scene or orbit around the scene. If I want to track or move left or right or up or down, then I hold down Alt again and I middle mouse, click and drag left and right or up and down. And if I want to dolly, which is moving forward and back, I can either use my scroll wheel or I can Alt and right mouse, click and drag, and I'll be able to zoom in and out that way. Another cool one to remember is the undo view or redo view. So all these changes that I've made, if I hit the left square bracket, I can undo all those changes. You'll see there's a whole bunch of them here. If I want to redo it, then I can just hit the right square bracket and it will go through or cycle through those. So that's pretty cool. So left square bracket and right square bracket. Now, if I want to zoom in on a single object, what I can do is select that object and hit the F key, which will frame selected. If I want to frame all, I can hit A and that will frame all. Okay, so I have frame selected and I have frame all. Now, if I tap my space bar, it brings me to a different panel view. And while we're here, I'll just tell you that if you want to frame all in all viewports, then you can hit Shift A and it will frame all in all of the viewports, which I show you to actually bring up another interesting point. Because if I were to hit undo, you'll notice that it only undoes that move in the viewport that my cursor or my mouse is currently over. Watch, see, and see, and see. So it is important to know that if you want a viewport to be active, all you have to do is move your mouse over top of it. And if you want to toggle your panel layout, you simply tap the space bar. And whatever view your cursor is over will become the current full frame view. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other things, and that's viewport display. Let's say that you want to look at your display as simply a wireframe. What you could do is you could hit the 4 key, and that will take you to wireframe. Or if you hit 5, it will bring you back to shaded mode. All right, a couple of other things or commands that we can work with here. Let's say that you want to bring up the help, because it is actually helpful to do so. It'll probably open on my other screen, but if you hit F1, I have to hit function F1 because of the way that my screen is set up, but it will bring up Maya's help, and I'll just drag it on here so that you can see it. So you can find out what's new in 2020, or if you're looking for a specific tool, you can find it there. So that's the F1 key. Undo is actually pretty easy in Maya. Let's say that I make a change to my scene here. All that I have to do to undo the scene is hit the Z key. So it can be Control Z, but you don't have to. In Maya, it's simply the Z key. And if you want to redo something, you hit Shift Z. So undo is Z and redo is Shift Z. Now you remember that last week I talked about the attribute editor. The way to open that is to hit Control A. And you'll remember that I also told you last week that I like to tear that off. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to grab the tab here and just tear it off so it becomes a free floating window. And then I can have both my channel box and my attribute editor open at the same time. Now, if I close the attribute editor and then I hit Control A, it will open up wherever I last had it open. Now you can see here I have the cube selected. If nothing is selected, then the attribute editor opens up with nothing in it. But as soon as I pick an object, then you'll see that I have all these various things that I can control with the attribute editor. Okay, moving along. We have something in Maya called the Hotbox. Now previously I just tapped the spacebar, but you'll notice that when I do that, there's this weird sort of thing that pops up. That weird thing that pops up is called the Hotbox in Maya, and what it does is it brings the menus to you. So right now I'm pressing and holding the spacebar, and then you can see my menus are all here. I'll do that once again. You press and hold the spacebar, and I've got my common menus, I've got my viewport menus, and then I've got all my context sensitive menus. So that's the Hotbox. And what's convenient about that is that wherever my mouse is where those menus appear. Now, we're going to learn a lot more about that in the future, and I use it extensively as I work. And I'll show you how to use the Hotbox controls and things like that as well, but we'll get into that more later. I can also switch viewports using the Hotbox without having to do this. Watch. So if I tap here and I want to go to my front view, but then I want to go back to my perspective view, what I can actually do is I can go here, click in the Maya box, and I could choose front view there, or I can go back to my perspective view. The thing that you have to remember about that is this. If I go to the front view here, and then I tap my spacebar, this is now the front view. So if I want this to be perspective again, I can once again go here and make it my perspective view. The Hotbox, we're going to be using that a lot. Okay, moving along. Marking menus are context pop-up menus that we can access by right mouse clicking on an object. Now notice that what we have here in this one, for instance, is the various components that make up a, oh, look at that. We'll go back to object mode. There we are. The various components that make up a polygon object. Or I have the ability to do selections, I have the ability to change input and output and all that kind of stuff, and also work on materials if my heart desires. So that is called a marking menu. Now you'll remember I talked about these menu sets earlier. The way to switch those menu sets is by using your F keys. So once again, I'll have to hit function here, but don't pay any attention to that. But watch these menus as I hit function F2, it changes to modeling, F3, F4. You see that? So those keys actually, or those hotkeys, allow me to switch my menus more quickly. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some of the Toolbox tools. Now, I still have that available here, but you'll remember that I said, well, I don't really like to use that. Like I can get to my rotate tool here, but you know what? It's kind of a waste. And again, I can go from a single view to a 4-panel here, but again, that's all built in using hotkeys. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that and tear it off and then delete it. And you're like, well, great, Terry, how do I now access my tools? Okay, well, that's pretty easy. First of all, the Q key is our select key. Just like 3D Studio Max, our W key is our move tool. Our E key is our rotate tool. Our R key is our scale tool. Our T key is our ability to show a manipulator. Now, there's nothing on this one, but for some of the tools, like let's say the extrude tool, it would show a manipulator. Which is another tool that allows us to change parameters on an object interactively. So that's pretty cool. We can also increase the manipulator size by using the plus and minus keys. So watch this. You'll see I'm hitting plus and minus, or the equal key, sorry. What's happening as I do that is that it changes the size of the manipulator. But when you do that, what it also does is it changes the amount of detail. The greater the size of the manipulator, the less the change that's going to occur. So you can do more finite changes by increasing the size of the manipulator. And finally, the Y key will actually allow us to get to our last used tool. So if I'm at W and then I hit E and then I hit Y, well, actually it won't do that because I don't have, like, let's say my extrude tool out anyway. But that's what it'll actually do. It'll repeat the last tool. It does not repeat actions, which is why it didn't show my move tool. Okay, so now a couple of other quick things. One of the things is being able to snap to grid when you're moving things around. So in other words, like right now, if I start moving this in X, it's just basically, if you look here, you'll notice that it's changing the values incrementally, like by the thousandth of a value. So, but if I were to hold down the X key, then what it's going to do is it's going to start snapping from grid space to grid space. And if I middle mouse click near a grid space, it'll actually snap it there automatically. All right, so that's a really quick video that covers off some of the navigation tools and hotkeys that are available to us in Maya. There's a lot more to come. And I just want to remind you that when you see Option on my keyboard, that's because I'm working on a Mac. Option is the same as Alt. And yeah, that's about it for now. Play with these tools, get super familiar with them. Watch the video 100 times, pause it. Try the tools out. Don't be afraid, you can't really break it. At least I've never seen anybody do that. And most of all, remember, this is fun. We'll talk to you later.